So it should be open in a few minutes in Geneva. They're going to have a lot of, I would say, influential members like former Ambassador Dennis Ross from the American administrations. They're going to have Congress member Richie Torres. They're going to have two seniors in the United Nations, one in UNRWA and another one from the UN. Both should probably attack UNRWA for its involvement with the terror, with Hamas. And the point, like Hillel Neuer, the CEO of UN Watch, told me before, the point for them is to show it is possible to handle the humanitarian situation in Gaza, but to do it without UNRWA. That's the point.
So what are some of those propositions that are being discussed for an alternative body, an alternative responsible group to take over the role that UNRWA was supposed to do in Gaza? Whose responsibility would that fall on?
So first of all, that's what we're going to hear today in the summit, I hope. But I can tell you from previous conversations with more than few experts, including Israeli one, that there are solutions. For example, you can use the United Nations Refugees Agency, which handles the entire world, just not the Palestinians issue. You can use UNICEF. You can use the UN program plan, and so on. And you can use USAID. So you do have solutions if you're looking for it. And the purpose of the discussions that will be held here today will be to show and look for other options than UNRWA, because you're now showing on the screen where I was in the headquarters of UNRWA, which was connected, and I saw it in my own eyes, were connected to Hamas servers headquarters under UNRWA headquarters in Gaza. So UNRWA and Hamas are connected so strongly that according to the experts that will come here today, it's impossible to differ between the both anymore. And therefore, you have to find other solutions. And not only that, Hillel is saying UNRWA is not a way to solve the conflict. It's a way to guarantee the conflict will keep going on for years, for decades, as happening from 1949. So the goal here today, again, I'm saying, is to look for other ideas, other plans, other humanitarian agencies from the entire world that can do what they have to do and not educate for terror, not to support terror, not to cooperate with Hamas, as we saw UNRWA is doing.
And Ariel, where does the UN investigation into these revelations regarding UNRWA's ties to Hamas, where does that stand at this time?
So at the moment, as far as I know, there are no conclusions yet. It's supposed to take a few weeks. By the way, it's not only the UN, it's also the European Union also is saying he's going to check what exactly happened between UNRWA and Hamas. But at least according to UN Watch, there is no use for those checks by the UN or by the EU, because the conclusions are known from ahead. Guterres, Antonio Guterres, the CEO of the United Nations, is already saying that there is no replace to UNRWA, which is opposite to what UN Watch is saying. And therefore, UN Watch just don't trust. I think Israel the same, just don't trust what those checks are going to say. We do know from the past, Sarah, that there were proof from previous years that UNRWA is cooperating with Hamas, and similar checks and investigations were done, and as if conclusions were taken. So it was not true, as we all know. UNRWA kept cooperating with Hamas, and therefore UN Watch is, and again Israel and both are saying there is no use for those checks. You have to replace UNRWA with other organizations which are not connected to terror.
Now, this summit is taking place next to the United Nations European headquarters in parallel with the 2024 opening of the UN Human Rights Council. What's expected to be discussed there?
So I know Israel will be discussed here in the Human Rights Council. I expect there will be some demonstrations here in the city. I was told there are already plans for that. I can't tell you at the moment what will be the conclusions of the UN Human Rights Council regarding Israel, but I did see in previous days some those reporters in Gaza, and I mean they're supposed to report from Gaza and from the West Bank. Already have their negative conclusions regarding Israel, but we know very well that the UN Human Rights Council is biased strongly against Israel. You can predict very well what will they say regarding the war. I don't think, at least in Israel, someone is taking them seriously, but let's see what they're going to say in the coming days.
Ariel Kahana, thank you very much for that update from Geneva.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.